I'm not as old as you. Hang on, we are the same age. I don't think so. Remember, it used to be you looked over the other side of the hill and it was kind of nice and gentle. It's a cliff right now. You know?
Yes, the man. That's why you eat dinner, so you can have dessert.
Do I need to sit down, or have I already been?
Go quick. How about that?
Okay.
Okay.
I thought maybe you'd said I was the opening, and they need to sit down.
No, you're gonna be the opening. Boom. So we're gonna call the Cache County Council meeting this evening to order, with the reminder that the NIT tournament. I'm not going to tell anybody what NIT means, but we're excited that the Aggies are going to be playing it, so we got to get out of here so folks can go see them. And with that, council members,
I'll say a short prayer. How does that sound?
bingo, that sounds great.
I'll make some opening in the form of a prayer. Dear Father in heaven, as we come before thee at this time, as a county elected officials and as county residents, we are so very grateful for this beautiful valley that we live in and the humble circumstances and the beauty that we're able to enjoy. We're thankful for each other. We're thankful for the opportunity which we have of serving, and we pray, Father, that that would continue to know that we're appreciative of your blessings, and pray that we may humbly do our very best to make things better for everyone around us as we talk and discuss different ideas and different programs. We pray that your influence will be with us and that we'll be able to feel as to the things that we should do and the direction that we should go. We also are very thankful for those people who are protecting us and the freedom that we have. And we would also like to mention that we pray for the people in the Ukraine, that they may be strong, that they may be valiant, that they may know that we're all praying for them and wish that we could go in and help them out. Pray that they may have some good days ahead. That we end and say we're thankful for this and ask for the Spirit to be with us. And we say it in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Appreciate that. Item number 3 on the agenda to review and approve it.
Mr. Chairman, I move to amend the agenda. I move that we take item 11A, an ordinance amending Title 3 of the Cache County Code regarding revenue and finance, and move that to a workshop. The reason for my motion is there seems to be some in-depth issues involved there that we need to take a look at as a council and really, I think, take a good hard look at how that's supposed to operate.
Second that.
Was pretty involved. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. The agenda's been approved with the movement of 11A to a workshop, and we probably want to have that workshop, Janine, for next council meeting. On to item number 4, review and approval.
Are there any specific questions so that I can prepare for that?
It's just, I mean, it was how many pages? 20-plus pages. We
Yeah,
just want to go through it.
in the morning, so we appreciate the work that went into it, but we just haven't really had a chance to take a look at it, so.
Just involved.
Mr. Chair, then I move to, with that change, I move then to approve the agenda.
Okay. And then, do
I'll
we need to
second
vote to
approve the
approve the agenda
As
as amended, removing 11A? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, review and approval of the minutes.
Got a correction.
Okay.
In the minutes, and I apologize, I don't remember exactly where, but Jamie Van Huss, her name is misspelled. It's Huss, and I think it was spelled Haus. She came with Hiram City about the RAPS request. I would move that we make that correction to her name spelling. And I move to approve the agenda with, or the minutes with that correction.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded with the correction to Jamie's name. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain because I wasn't here for the meeting.
Okay. That passes with Carl's abstention. And we'll turn some time over to the county executive for his report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple items for you this evening. The first item I have for you is an appointment to the Cache Water District. If you'll recall, at the last meeting, we had a couple of candidates who spoke during the public hearing we had about this item. And after having some discussions and getting input from the council on that, I would like to present to you for your approval Regan Wheeler for the Cache Water District representative position.
I move to approve that nomination.
I'll second that.
Okay, the appointment of Regan Wheeler to the Cache Water District has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Regan, congratulations.
He's not-
Giddy up when you see this.
Thank you, Council. The next appointments I have are for our RAPS committee. As you know, this time of year is when we start to review applications. The application period just ended, and we have a lot of applications to review. So this is your last chance if you want to back out. If you're one of the council members who's going to serve on this. There's a lot of work that'll be before this group, but I just want to thank everybody who is willing to serve. We've reached out to all of the existing committee members, and they're all willing to continue serving. We have on that committee Councilmember Erickson and Councilmember Tidwell who represent their districts, and the rest are represented by citizens. And the list is before you of those representatives, and I'll ask for your advice and consent on that list as well for appointment, please.
Again, I'll make a motion to approve the RAPS committee as presented by.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the RAPS committee as proposed by the executive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
All right, thanks very much. We'll be getting to work on that soon. The next item I have, I'd like to introduce my new Chief Deputy County Executive, Dr. Dirk Anderson. If you please stand. Just wanted to introduce you and tell you a little bit about him. He is from Smithfield, is where he lives with his family, has his wife Rory here, and two of his sons, Evan and Gideon. And maybe if he wants to share a little more about his personal life, I'll do that, but I'll tell you a little about his personal or his professional background. Dirk has a tremendous amount of experience in local and state government. He's worked at the city level and worked as a policy and budget analyst for Provo City. In addition to that, he's worked for a few different governors, including the governor of our state and the governor's office of planning and budget, and a budget director for the state of Alaska. Looking forward to working with him and using his experience and education to the benefit of the county. He has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in public policy and a PhD in leadership. Just a little bit of background on the process that we went through. We had almost 36 applicants for this position. It was a long and very difficult process. I would say, other than my decision to run for elected office, this was the most difficult professional decision I've had to make. So many good applicants, and Dirk really rose to the top of that crop of applicants. His experience, his personality, his education, everything was impressive. I took some of the advice of council members here and included your chair, Barbara Tidwell, participated in the interview process, and she agreed with the rest of the panel that Dirk was our best candidate for the position. So with that being said, I've asked our clerk, Jess Bradfield, if he would administer the oath of office. to Dirk, and I would like to do that now.
Have them step to the mic.
For this,
I,
state your name,
Dirk Anderson,
having been appointed
having been appointed
to the office
to the office
of Chief Deputy County Executive,
of Chief Deputy County Executive,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office
of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, Dirk, if you want to say a few words, we'd love to hear from you. I mean, we do have sunlight here as compared to Alaska, so we've got a few minutes, but we do have an NIT tournament.
You bet. I'm just really excited for the opportunity to serve. I have a passion for good government, and it really comes down to taking care of our people. And I'm excited to meet so many of them. I mean, I've already met so many of them. I'm excited to meet them all. I appreciate you council members for the sacrifice you've made to run and to serve. It's not an easy job. And as well as David running and serving as well, all of our elected officials, but all of our city, all of our county employees, everybody, we've got a great place to live. And I'm just hoping to make it even better. I appreciate the support of my wife, Rory, and my kids. We've loved Cache Valley, and we're just really excited to be here in the county and to contribute. So thanks for the opportunity.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it and appreciate your service, and especially appreciate your family. And your two boys are probably making the biggest sacrifice of all, having to sit with us in this meeting. So, thank you.
Question for you. One of the things that kind of come to my attention when they said something about Alaska, are you pretty familiar with everything up there, and you're able to help us out a little bit with fishing trips?
I know just enough. I know that the salmon were literally on the sides of the rivers in Juneau. The amount of nature up there is crazy. So, yeah.
You'll fit in real well.
Yeah.
I'm excited about your wife because that means she gets to come to our county parties, and we'll get to know her, and there's a possibility that we'll provide a shrimp boil for her this year. So anyway, she can look forward to that.
You bet.
Welcome
Thank you.
aboard.
Thank you very much.
Another fish story person, huh?
Thank you, Dirk.
Thank you.
Council. I have just a couple of more items, quick items on my report. Just wanted to give a brief report about the solid waste issue. At a recent meeting here, it was discussed with Mayor Daines coming here and announcing Logan City's intention to withdraw from the current agreement related to solid waste collection and processing. Subsequent to that meeting, there was a meeting held in which all of the other mayors met, as well as myself and 3 of our council members. Our chairwoman, Barbara Tidwell, and council members Erickson and Zillis attended that meeting. At that meeting, we discussed potential options for dealing with the pullout from Logan City. And it was decided that one of the first steps that group wants to take is to do a request for proposals and look at potential options related to contracting out with a private hauler. That group is in the process, that group of mayors is in the process of drafting a request for proposals, and we'll be meeting next week to review that. So that's the update on that issue.
Can I just make one comment?
Sure.
Because I wasn't able to be to the meeting, I decided to get the data from the source, so I met with Mayor Daines and then Rich Anderson and got all the numbers and things, and I really think it's best for the county and for the city overall to do that. We're the only county around to, as a public entity, collecting all the garbage. And I also met with one of the owners of Atlas Waste Removal Company. And looking at their numbers, they said we're going to be able to do it cheaper than what we're paying Logan City. And so I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Thanks for that input. I think several of the people involved have similar feelings about it, and as well as the part about maybe being able to do it for a lower price. A couple more items, just briefly. Putting together a housing crisis task force, just with a number of experts in the community to look at the housing crisis that we're having. I'd love to have a representative from the county council serve on that. If one of you is interested in serving on that committee, I'd love to hear from you. If you reach out to me, we're going to have a number of experts from different sectors of the housing community, and I'm going to ask them if they'll give some suggestions about things that maybe we can do to address that issue. I wanted to make an announcement. This is kind of an exciting thing. The Bear River Health Department, which is essentially our health department for the county. They serve the 3-county area. They announced today that they received their national accreditation, something that they've been working on for many months, and successfully achieved that and received notice of that today. So just want to commend them publicly for that. And then one final item that I have this evening, another commendation. The Cache Valley Chamber of Commerce had their annual awards gala just recently, and at that gala they awarded somebody with the Woman of the Year award, and that happened to be one of our county employees. Julie Hollis-Terrell was selected as the Woman of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce, and was very well deserved. I was happy and proud to see a member of our organization being recognized in that way. The last item is the financial expense report. Warrant register is provided for you this evening, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We have no items of special interest. Lauren, general plan update. Take 10 minutes. Can you do it in 10?
Oh, I can even do it faster than that. It'll be brief.
I filled out my survey, by the way, so
Oh, perfect.
I get a gold star.
You
when you're
do
done.
get a gold star. Yeah, sorry. Oh, there's the cord. This side? All right, there we go. All right. Great, thanks, council members. I will be brief. I put this photo up and hoping that spring will soon emerge, so putting spring vibes out there. So staff put out, so I'll be brief tonight, knowing that we have the joint planning commission and council workshop coming up that will really dive into everything with the general plan. But staff put out a request on what topics we wanted to really there's a lot to go over, so we wanted to figure out what we wanted to emphasize and really talk about at that workshop. And so I just wanted to go over, and if you haven't taken that yet, by tomorrow would be awesome if you have time as well. So I just wanted to point out some of the topics that was risen with putting that survey out there, just to kind of prep what we'll be talking about at that workshop on the 30th. So some of the priorities with open space were to explore potential public and private funding sources to preserve and manage open space, such as bonds, sales tax, impact fees, private land trusts, and grants. And then the second item that was really close behind that one was to protect our recreational, scenic, and natural value of our canyons, wildlife, and national forest areas of Cache County when considering development in mountainous areas. And then in terms of agriculture and water, the one that was most prevalent there was planning for long-term water needs through conservation water supply projects while considering water rights for agricultural lands and natural areas. And then closely behind that one was to explore appropriate options that consolidate development, such as cluster development, transferable development rights, subdivision alternatives. So I know there have been quite a few questions about how those processes work, so we'll definitely expect to dive into that at the workshop. And then in terms of regional collaboration, there are kind of three that really stuck out there close to the top. So coordinating with local governments to approximately locate higher impact commercial uses close to population centers, within annexation growth areas and along transportation routes, protecting surrounding farms and rural character by identifying appropriate commercial use types in those rural areas. And then the last one is to explore and identify options to include affordable housing in the county. So ADUs, twin homes, multifamily. And then this one, to improve coordination of new development between the county and cities regarding general plan studies, cost of infrastructure, work towards more consistent development. So this really kind of addresses that regional collaboration plan that we've been working on. And then also to coordinate between communities to align and connect streets, infrastructure services, and establish right-of-ways. So really focusing on that master transportation plan among all the municipalities. So those are kind of the high priority areas that both council and commission have identified and what they want to talk about at that workshop. Of course, if you guys have anything else that you would feel would best prepare you for that meeting, please let me know ahead of time and I'd be happy to talk things over with you. But I just want to, I think this is good to emphasize. I know we've talked about all these plans, you know, a number of times over the last year or so that this process has been ongoing, but just to emphasize, you know, we're working on 4 different plan elements. One, of course, being the general plan, which addresses the policy, goals, and strategies of the county. That regional collaboration plan, which applies the information from the general plan, that focus on strategies for collaboration amongst the communities. And then we've got that cost of services model and the urban and rural area assessment, which really serve as the technical documents that feed into both of the general plan and the regional collaboration plan. So just a reminder that it kind of gets confusing that we've got 4 different moving parts here, but they all are working together as one. So like I said, if you have time, would love to hear your feedback on that Google form that Tim sent out on what you would like to have discussed. Yes.
Can you keep that up for just a second?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Questions from the council? Anybody? I have one on the very first page when you talk about development in mountain areas.
Uh-huh.
And I just want to see how how tight Chris gets when I ask this question. When we're talking about removing the steep slope language from our developmental standards, is that removing that language compatible with that bullet point if we did something like that, do you think?
I think so. We've discussed that. That language just needs to be cleaned up.
Okay.
So in some circumstances, it can be engineered around and it doesn't result in a greater safety issue. In other circumstances, it does. So we need to build some flexibility into that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, and like I said, please let me know ahead of the meeting on the 30th if there's anything you feel you need information to feel most prepared for that workshop to be productive. So
Okay.
great, and thank you for those who have taken the Google form that was sent out, and if you have time, would love to hear from you by tomorrow, preferably.
Okay.
Thank you.
We only have a couple minutes before we need to set the public hearing. Floyd, if you'll give us we'll move forward in the agenda for just a minute to, and then come back to you so we don't short you any time.
Maybe Floyd can do it that fast.
Do we want 3 minutes, or does anybody have anything to say? Because I'm trying to look to see what we got. We got public hearing.
Known Floyd to be pretty fast.
Public hearings and then move into the public hearing.
Okay, let's do that. So 9, if we want to do them all at once to set the public hearing, I'll take a motion for us to set the public hearing as our 9A, B, C, D.
It's going to take 3 minutes just to say all of those things.
Mr. Chair, I move that we set the public hearing for ordinance 2022-13, resolution 2022-06, 6 p.m., Resolution 2022-07, and Resolution 2022-08 for March 29th, 2022.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Those will be, those public hearings will be set as made in the motion. And is that clock right? What does Apple tell us? 5:30, I think we'll be. Yeah.
If we have someone come up and describe what this is about, then we'll give enough time to open the public hearing at 5:30.
Yes, so we got the public hearing for ordinance 2022-12 for the Cutler Valley rezone. Someone from the, perfect. Right on it, so
My goal is to do this without Bart's assistance, so let's see how I do. And just another moment, we'll project. Duplicate. All right, thank you for your patience, and good to be with you, council. For your consideration this evening is the Cutler Valley rezone, and this is property owned by Terry and Suzanne Griffin, located at approximately 6600 North Highway 23. It's a large parcel, almost 66 acres, surrounding agricultural and residential uses at the southwest corner of the town of Newton. And the request is to rezone from A10 to RU5. This is based on an intention to take advantage of existing roads that we'll look at it a little closer in just a moment, but here's the proximity of the surrounding area. And you see that the RU5 request relates to the surrounding agricultural uses and compatible lot sizes in the area. Here's a view of the property along 700 North, or 7000 North, looking east towards Newton, and along 7000 North looking south across the property. See the beautiful Wellsvilles in the background, and at different corners, looking both east and south. And in review of this property, it was found that the road is close to meeting standard, just within a foot or two, depending on the stretch. And I believe of primary interest is to front future development. Well, I'll let the applicant speak to where the desired development would be, but the understanding is that there's attainable road improvements that thus the staff recommends that the council approve this rezone request to RU5, Rural 5 zone. And this allows for residential development in a low density pattern that can allow for rural subdivisions and smaller scale agricultural uses. Certainly accommodates the opportunity to cluster the development. Does not unreasonably impede adjacent agricultural uses or conflict with development standards of adjacent communities, and is appropriately served by adequate provision of public services. So that's a fairly brief overview. The RU5 zone has similar uses allowed as the A10, but with some lesser intensity uses that are not, or less intensity overall. Some of the uses that are not allowed are agricultural, manufacturing, recreation facility, cemetery, private airport, concentrated animal feed operation, livestock auction facility, topsoil extraction. So this is a density pattern that could allow for rural subdivisions and designed to not unreasonably impede adjacent agricultural uses, nor unreasonably conflict with the development standards of adjacent municipalities. And given the proximity to Newton, this zoning appears to provide flexibility for future expansion of the community in coordination with the property owner. So with that, I'd be happy to respond to any questions, and staff's recommendation is for approval of the rezone request.
Any questions from the council before we open the
After the public hearing.
Okay. So So we'd like to open a public hearing for comment, if anybody would like to come and speak to this issue.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. That has been closed. And so the next hearing would be Resolution 2022-03, declaring the county's interest in the real property located in Lewiston, Utah, described as the portion of tax ID parcel number 14-029-0018. Do we have anybody that's going to, from the staff?
I could speak to that. Do you want me to do it over there?
Found out we don't own it.
For years, the county GIS map and our understanding has been that county owned this parcel, and an irrigation company approached the county with a proposal that we give them either an easement or sell part of the parcel so that they could get some grant funding to put in a pump, and in exchange they'd provide some funding and design work for the county to get a boat ramp on the other side of the road into the river. As the Public Works Department did due diligence toward the end of this process, we discovered that due to a recording error back in the 1950s, we thought we owned the land as a county, but we only own an easement. And so that project has kind of had to come to a stop, and we don't need you to hold the hearing, but we thought we ought to let you know why it's been on the agenda for some weeks and why it now has kind of hit a dead end, and are happy to answer questions about it if you'd like.
So
we don't need a hearing because the county doesn't own the property so there's no need anymore to have a hearing to surplus it. We just didn't want to take it off the agenda without explanation.
Move to close the public hearing.
Oh,
Move to not have the public hearing.
Move to close the potential.
Cody actually says, let's just go ahead and sell it anyway.
figure, we'll see, it's everybody else's problem once we sold it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's that, no public hearing. So we will move back to, looks like we got everything done under 9. We'll move back to 7B. Floyd, the ICE.
Our board president, just go first 60 seconds.
Just real quick, I
Sure.
promise.
No.
Go Aggies, so I'm not going to keep you. My name is Steve. I just want to introduce, thank you, council members, for the time tonight. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Steve Larson. I'm president of the board at the Eccles Ice Arena. I've been in that position for a number of years and have been working with Floyd for a number of years. And just wanted you to know that as a board, we give Floyd our full vote of confidence. We are pleased with the job that he's doing. We meet regularly and review, and we feel like he's done a great job. And I'll turn it over to him to give you the numbers.
Thank you, Steve.
Pull that up, Shane. Thank you, Chairman and council members. I appreciate you giving me some time today. I think what we have is some positive news. I know I sent this out in advance so you could have it on your iPads. And I know it looks long, but it's not going to be, trust me. Plus, it's only 20 to 5, right?
We're making up time in the air as we go. Look at that.
I want you to hopefully take away 4 things after we're done today. And the first, that we've been a good caretaker of the business and the facility, and that the ice center is truly a community ice center, and that it's not just for a dedicated few, that there's a lot in the valley using it. And then we are bringing money into the valley, both through restaurants and hotel, and I'll show that in a minute. And we have totally honored our agreement that we agreed to with the endowment when we met. Next slide. I put some general facts down here, and I think council member probably Erickson and Zillis and Ward, you know, they kind of know this, but I wanted to make sure I just updated really quickly for some of you newer council members. We operate 7 days a week. Will you flip that, Janine? And I know this is an eye chart, and it just, the color is meant to show you that we're basically open 7 days a week, starting at 6, and we go into midnight. These different colors represent different groups, and most of them for the public. But just the one thing I want to highlight on this chart is, Gordon, I distinctly remember last time you said the only thing I would like you to make sure of is that you put some publics in here, and that's what the purple represent, okay? And those are the publics. We try to hold them routinely. Sometimes we get a little bit jammed up when we have high school hockey, USU hockey, and a lot of them running right in the dead of winter. But for the most part, we try to offer publics to the general community. Next slide. Back to this, we offer 6 programs to the general public. There are things like our hockey leagues, which are exploding. We run those at night, and you know, we've grown from 16 to 26 teams. You're kind of seeing a phenomenon that happened maybe 15 years ago with soccer, and you started, well, you know, it's really exploding on us. And there's all different levels for the community members, from startup leagues to higher leagues, individuals that have played collegiate hockey. It's called A-League. So there's an A, B, and C league. We have Learn to Skate. New program started tonight. The parking lot was full. We always run 100 to 140 skaters in that Learn to Skate program. That becomes feeder programs to all of our other programs. And that is split about 50-50. On the Learn to Skate, there will be about 50% brand new skaters, 50% that have been there before and are progressing on. So it's a good mix. We support 7 different user groups that buy ice from us. That would be USU hockey, high school hockey teams, women freeze teams, a curling club. And so Cache Valley Amateur Hockey Association, which I believe, I'm not sure, Cole, but it used to be the largest youth hockey league in the state. And so, you know, there's a lot of opportunity there. The one thing that we really worked on is midday. If you went to the ice center, it was pretty slow just because everybody was in school, and we said, how can we change that? So we teach now 3 accredited USU classes. They actually come down, they get credit for it. There's a curling, a hockey, a figure skating. When Green Canyon built the new school, we went over and developed a relationship with them that said, why don't we teach PE classes here? And so we have a block that we teach at noon every day, and it fills up like that. The students come over and we'll do 2 weeks hockey, 2 weeks figure skate, 2 weeks curling. And again, it's kind of this exposure, and that has worked out well, and we've kind of filled our slower spots midday. And then we do have some non-ice events when it makes sense. And, you know, we get approached a lot, and we just try to make sure it makes sense for the ice arena. And here's a couple examples. This weekend we had a Western Regionals USA Hockey and Wrestling tournament, and it works well because of all of our locker rooms. We just put our floor, so you members know we purchased a floor called Sports Court that we can cover the ice and hold these events. They roll out their mats and have a tournament, and we'll make, you know, roughly 8,000 plus concessions in a 2.5 day period on that. We've developed a great relationship with them. This weekend, if you would have pulled into the parking lot, you couldn't find a place. They were parked all the way down the street and into Green Canyon and into Real Salt Lake. In driving through the parking lot, I counted 7 different states' license plates, and not just onesies. I mean, you had Arizona, New Mexico, Montana, Nevada, Wyoming, Idaho, and that was a 3-day tournament. They were all staying in hotels here. They were all eating at our restaurants, and so we are trying to give back for some of this RAPS monies that, you know, you've been very generous in allowing us to work with. And then the final thing I just want to mention, that last bullet with the ice center, between the RSL hockey, between Green Canyon and their activities and the ice center and our activities, if you pull in there any weekend, you know, it's loaded between the 3, the little hub there of things going on winter and all fall. And so we feel like that we've grown the business and we've worked hard in making that a hub and having some synergy with the other entities there. Next slide. Just really quick, and we're trying to use those maintenance dollars wisely, and we've been able to stretch them a long way. And I put 3 examples on here that we've run out of room and we needed a facility to store and work on our equipment, our Zamboni, some of our equipment was just being left outside, and so we were able to get approval for and build a small steel shop out there. Well, we were able to go and say, hey, the county's given us some maintenance money here, and it wasn't, you know, I'd use a small amount. I'd go and find a private donor and say, you know, $7,000, and could you make up the rest? And they'd make up 90% of it. We'd put in a new chiller and condenser. Both of them crashed on us, and they were about $100,000 a pop. And I found donors for them, but I was able to say, you know, we have $7,000 to $10,000 that can go towards this maintenance, and it made them very happy, and they would match up with it. And so the chiller, the condenser, the new Zamboni, all that has been private donor money with just a slice of ours that we're able to put a good foot forward. And so we've worked hard. We do a deep cleaning of the building every summer. We shut down for about 10 days. We try to do a lot of trade. The parking lot, you'll notice, remains sealed and painted. And we do a trade on that just from advertising inside the rink. And that vendor then seals and paints our parking lot. Also, our Zambonis take a lot of maintenance, and we trade all that for advertising as well with a local shop. The last thing I wanted to highlight is we haven't just sat on our laurels. We've tried to do some cost-saving measurement things. We've had a program, we called it our energy management system, and we put in LED lighting, capacitors to try to control spikes on our compressors, things like that. And our bill went down for a while, and even with increases remained the same because of that. Next page. Profitability. We're remaining profitable. We've been profitable every year since I met with you guys. Some years are higher than others, but if you go way back, there was a lot of naysayers that say, you know, you couldn't do it. I realize, and we need to recognize, we're always going to need to be a nonprofit, but we've been able to inch that up to where our program revenues and program revenues from operations are running at about 70% now. When we started, it was 40 and 60 were donations. We flipped that, and now it's even growing a little bit more. But we're always going to have to ask some foundations and different businesses and things for some help. And I kind of just put down here where our revenue streams come from. So our programs and services are our biggest source. We have advertisement. We went and have sold a lot of ads under the ice. We pull it every 5 years. We get businesses to commit to 5 years, and they advertise under the ice and then all the way around it as well. And I want you guys to know that they're called dasher ads, but I don't know if any of you have been out there. We put one up for the county, one up for North Logan, one up for Hyde Park to just give a little pub and recognize you are helping us. But we still fundraise, and I grant write, you know, every year. I'll write 7 to 10 grants. That has slowed down. I found you've had to have your foot in the door. A lot of them just have backed off with new monies, but we've developed some great relationships there. We still have our fundraisers and then user group ice time. Those 7 user groups rent the ice from us. The last thing that I'm really proud of is our annual audits. We have not had even a minor issue since I reported to you guys last. Matt Regan Services is our auditor, and we have flown through there, and I think Steve can testify. We've been great, and he's been pleased with us. We feel like we run a clean ship with checks and balances. Next. Finally, Janine had indicated we needed to report where we were at the endowment. So there's a couple things that I want to highlight. We have lived to everything we said we would, okay? We have not taken a dollar out of there. And the initial plan was a 10-year plan that this council approved, along with North Logan and Hyde Park. Right now we're halfway, and we should be at just over 1.3 million. We're at 1.432, so we're 42,000 ahead. We've been very diversified with our portfolio to be careful not to put too much in any one basket. We have several different annuities. We have some other investments with Wasatch. Investments helps us, and you know they have been very good to us, and we're on track. And you know we're hoping we keep that support up. We're exactly halfway, but we've got this thing close to the goal line. And I would just, for some of you that are new, the goal was to hit 2 million, and you know we're using the RAPS money for maintenance, and that allows maintenance and utilities. That allows us any extra revenue we put of our own money into that endowment, and then the 164 sports and recs tax that Cache County, North Logan, and Hyde Park committed to, that goes in as well. And so, you know, I would just say we've got this thing rolling, and you know, we think that if we move forward and stick with it, we're going to be at the plan. And then the plan is just the interest coming off that can pay for the utility and maintenance. So that is what I had. I don't know if there's any questions or comments.
Question for you, Floyd. 12 or 14 years ago, we were talking with our people that started out the ice arena. And at that time, Logan City opted out. They didn't want to give anything. And I chided Mayor Daines when she come and proposed that she was going to back off of the garbage. And I says, you know, Mayor Daines, one of the things that I've noticed in the years that I've been in office is that one by one, Logan City is isolating themselves from being a participant in the county. And they still aren't putting any money into it, only what percentage of money that goes into the RAPS money that they generate. Has that changed in all those years?
No, let me address this. So I can tell you that Dave Koyman, Steve, and myself made at least 2 different runs at that, made formal presentations, and both times I don't know a better way to say it, it fell on deaf ears and they chose not to. I know that the general feeling and Rich Anderson's feeling was, we support this strictly from the wraps. You know, we were trying to go at the 164th, which you guys have committed as well, and they would not do that. They said, we see it as that initial wraps as being our part of participation. And so, you know, I feel like I put my best foot forward a couple times on it, and that's where we're at. If any of you feel like you have any different leverage than us.
I hope the council remember this, that when I said what I did, it was accurate, and we're starting to see even more now with the garbage that I'm going to chide Logan a little bit. They just seem to have lost the spirit of we're all in this together. It's, you know, us or no go. And a perfect example is what's been done with the ice arena, because that, you can imagine, with half of the population living in Logan, and the majority of Logan population is that close to the ice arena, that they're using a huge amount of time at the ice arena. And I'm not exactly sure what I'm trying to say here, other than I'm a little disappointed. One other thing is I'm on the ice arena board, and I don't know who I should chide, whether it should be Steve or you, but have we had a meeting for a long, long time, or are you not inviting me, or am I just avoiding?
We haven't for a while. Dave Coyman is, you know, the chair. He has had some health issues. And, you know, just to speak quite frankly, I think it'd be the worst thing right now to make the change with that. I think he needs everything he can to stay positive, but I can approach him with that. Right now, he's traveling to get some different treatments and things over to Denver.
Well, with my absence, you're doing really well, so maybe you don't need any input. So anyway,
You've been great to us.
I just know it's been a long time since we've had a meeting, and I used to like to go out there and look at that ice. I don't know how to ice skate very well, and probably fall down and break my leg, and I'm not going to participate in the new class where you learn to skate. So
We may get you curling though.
I'd pay to see that. I'd come to the meeting just for that alone.
In stretchy pants.
Yeah. I want to see him get in that position.
I can remember years ago we went to Hawaii, and John White and I decided that we'd better get a tan. And you could have heard all the people laughing and giggling at two white boys as white as they could be on the beach of Hawaii. Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Gordon, Carl, Tina?
Thank you.
Thank you. Boy, thank you, Steve. We appreciate
Thanks.
the update and all you do. Okay. Number 10A, Resolution 2022-05. This is pending action for our travel procedure. Chief?
Surprise.
Welcome.
Amy asked me to take care of this one. She's out of town. I think she's being a cheerleader mom, so I'd rather be here than that.
There you go.
This came before the Ordinance Review Committee as a change in their travel policy. Our current per diem for meals is $10 for breakfast, $15 for lunch, and $25 for dinner. With inflationary pressure that we've all seen, this has been stable for 10 years. And now as folks travel, they're coming back saying they can't buy even lunch for the prices that we're doing. So this has been modified, and essentially what it's done is adopted the GSA rates for travel, no matter where you're traveling in Utah or other areas. And so we implemented that, as well as simplified this section quite a bit. The other change that was involved was, it used to say an officer, employee, or representative of the county, and the representative was stricken so that it's specifically to officers or employees of the county.
Questions, concerns?
I'll make a motion that we approve this.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2022-05 to amend the travel policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Chief, thank you very much for the update on that. 11A was moved, so we go to 11B, Ordinance 2022-012 on the Cutler Valley Rezone. I want to open that up for discussion with the council.
see that it was approved unanimous. I was shocked. Where it was right next to Newton. And did Newton have any, were they in favor? I kind of thought that, when I read some things, that they kind of negative against
There was
stuff.
a letter from the mayor.
Right.
Yes.
Letter from the mayor, but did they come and, I didn't read any minutes from the planning and zoning on, that they came and shared things.
Right, it was the one letter
Yeah.
from the mayor and expressing some discussion as the applicant approached planning commission and council and had some discussion. And I think there was, the letter reports, some mixed feelings. And then the mayor sharing personal opinion and citing a preference for growth to occur in the town, within the incorporated limits rather than expanding outward. I think here this is about a property owner in the county wishing to exercise development rights and to increase those development rights to the R5 to make more feasible the development improvements.
And you just, in your little statement earlier, you mentioned that this opens things up for possible cluster development. Is that the plans? But if you RU5, can you really bring all those together and do all that shifting of those development rights from parcel to parcel, or?
You know, I appreciate that question because I think it's part of the general plan update conversation is when and where should there be a density increase with a cluster or transfer requirement. In this case, our zoning does not require it in the RU5 zone, but it is an option. So I don't know if the applicant still here maybe thought that they were done.
I know that's one of the things that we've discussed for a lot of years about getting a cluster ordinance together. You only need a half acre to build in the county. You know, you can, the limiting factor, of course, would be water and then the septic, but because of the fact that you've got to have enough drain filled in that you don't cross-contaminate people. But I'm guessing that most of that Newton property and that's probably pretty big lots anyway.
Yeah, the historic lot size being 1.25 acres, and that's not always fully developed at the block interior with a septic system. I do recall from the planning commission hearing, the applicant mentioning that there was an intent to build along the one road edge and then reserve area for farming, or if Newton ever wanted to expand. And the applicant mentioned personally they thought it might be a good site for a church someday. That's about the extent of the detail we received.
You mentioned that. So that would be, that's open for some possibilities that they could, for example, just put all their homes over in this area, if that would fit, and then leave the open space back without having to 5-acre lots and push one per every 5 acre.
It sounded like that could be their intention, or one option they're looking at, but our code does not currently.
Yeah, I know.
We can't necessarily require that of them as a condition of a rezone.
I think that'd be a big plus right in that area too.
Well, the other thing is, if you looked at the pictures, that looks like fairly decent agricultural land. I mean, at least it grows something. And if you were to come up with a cluster ordinance and it fit that particular piece of property, that would be beneficial for the people that live there, because they don't have to keep the weeds off of 5 acres. They only have to do it off of whatever size lot they decide on, and then it would leave the rest of it open for someone to still raise some crop on. That was what the original cluster idea was, is that you could cluster stuff in these areas outside of the county that were large acreages and make it so they can still be farmed, but that they can still use that amount of lots to put them together. You see, if they do that, I had it written somewhere, what was it, about 13 new lots?
Up to 13, yes.
Somewhere I wrote that down.
By the time right-of-way dedications.
Maybe
yes.
13, maybe 14 lots. And if you could cluster them into a corner, just think of the benefit that would be for both agriculture and for those people that are doing the subdivision.
Yes, the land maintenance, as you mentioned, as well as the reduced cost of the improvements to access and provide frontage.
You look at the lots in the county that are 5-acre estates, and They either have got 2 horses in there and they've got it trumped down to dirt, or it's weeds. It's either or. Nobody that wants to farm 5 acres of garden anymore, plus there's probably not water for it, but we would help ourselves out in the housing shortages, whatnot, if we did these kind of things. And I guess maybe one of the goals I had a couple of years ago is to get with Chris and the rest of you, and let's get an ordinance where we could cluster if it fit, and make it beneficial and a tool that we could use here in the county.
More of an assurance that that tool is applied in a rezone, at the time of a rezone.
Yeah,
Yep. So it's certainly an option, but not necessarily a requirement.
right.
Remind me, Tim and Chris, was RU2 discussed on this because it's locale to a municipality? It seems that had come up, wasn't it?
It was not requested. But the statement by the applicant was mentioned of orienting development along one road or 1 or 2 roads rather than
The reason
spread
I
out
bring up
everywhere.
RU2 is it could have asked for RU2 being next to a municipality, which would have been much more dense. I was surprised that it meant all positive as well, just because I think we've been watching as a commission, or when I was on a commission, we were watching how many lots would take for the number of well permits, and we were trying to keep that down, so that's where I get to the point of, on this general plan, is the use and the application of water and everything else too.
One of the challenges that we have as a county council, we have nothing to do with water and the issuance of water. We don't have anything to do with there's even water to drill for.
Yeah.
That's all controlled and done by the state, and we all are concerned if a person's gonna drill a dry well. But that's, I guess that's up to somebody to punch a hole in and see if there's water there, I don't know.
That's also the number one limiting factor as to why they haven't grown that fast out there in even within Newton City, is that there's limited source that they have water. They share things clearing the heck up in Clarkston, and there's just a limited flow, limited, even the wells over there have not proved to be that as far as quantity or quality. And so there might be some issues there that might be even once you get going. But that's why a lot of Newton hasn't filled up, even within the city, is they got to keep developing water to get water, and that's a limiting factor over there. So, but it falls within our, what our current code is, approved by planning and zoning. I just don't want to be the one that makes the motion.
Well, I'll make the
Seriously,
motion.
I'm concerned about water out there as well, so I think your point is well taken.
Well, and the mayor addresses that as
Yeah,
well.
and the mayor addresses that too, and so it's too bad that can't be a deciding factor, because I think it truly is an issue out there from what you've said, Dave, and what I've heard as well.
Well, I think the limiting factor out there is just what we've identified, and that is if they can get water to support the house. And it's too bad you can't look ahead and see if it's gonna work or if it's not.
Well,
We got a well in Mendon that's not a good well, and then they've been working on trying to get water, and they just absolutely can't get good water, and it's down on the east side of Mendon. And I think they've drilled 3 wells, and I mean, you can imagine how expensive that is. They still don't have any water. Or they got water, but it's not good water.
well, the onus falls on the developers and people who are developing it.
Right.
So I would support the planning commission's recommendation and move approval of ordinance 2022-12 Cutler Valley region.
I'll second it.
Consideration, we need to waive the rules for that.
Yeah, maybe we'll.
So,
Or this is initial proposal. Waive the rules.
okay, so it's been moved and seconded to waive the rules and approve ordinance 2022-12, which would support the recommendation, the unanimous recommendation of the Planning Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Just
How can you put a half? How can you put a half in there?
How far do we-
That was, any opposed? No one opposed? That has been approved. And now to discussion on resolution 2022-06, amending the Cache County budget. I'm gonna assume, it's Cameron, it's your show at this point in time, is it
Can I
not?
ask a question on this?
Yes.
If we're not having a public hearing on this until next week, I don't understand how it can be on the initial proposals for action because we need a public hearing.
That's a John question, maybe? I was told that it would be on the agenda, so that's why I'm here, but I don't know.
I assumed you talked about it last meeting.
No, we didn't.
Well, I think we have to have a public hearing, plain and simple.
Yeah, I do too.
So we want to review.
Really, I don't know.
I think you can have it as an initial proposal for consideration.
Yeah, you could have asked me that an hour ago.
Without a public hearing, but I think you could discuss it if you would like.
So do we
So
just want-
normally, there's, if you have a public hearing and then you adopted it that same day because it was initial proposal, you would have to waive the rules. And if I understand right, what you're saying is there wouldn't be any waiving of the rules today because there hasn't been a public hearing, but you could still discuss it.
We'll have the initial consideration.
Well, it's been our practice to try not to approve budget things the same day we have a public hearing in order to give ourselves some time to think about it or any public input we receive. And so.
Right.
To me, that's a moot point, because we wouldn't
Well,
be
but
approving it.
if Cameron
Sure, bring it up anything, mine won't bring up anything.
If you were to discuss it tonight, all it would mean is that there's more public discussion that happens than less. You would still have to have the public hearing. You could still wait another meeting after that to act on it. It just, if you discuss it tonight, there's more public discussion than less.
So
Will you come
with
back
the,
and give another presentation before the public hearing, the same
Are
one?
there time-sensitive items in
Then
there?
after you hit county.
There's a couple that probably should, one that was just amended on there today, but, no, I didn't understand or know that there was gonna be a issue. I was told that this would be discussed today, so I was planning to present today, knowing that there would be a hearing in 2 weeks.
so do we want to hear from Cameron tonight, just give us a quick overview? So we kind of know what's in there, we can be thinking about it, and then we can go through it in more detail and have the discussion next week? Or do we just want to save it for next week? Straw poll.
Well, I had a call during the week from a county deputy prosecuting attorney. I don't know if that's a proper terminology, but he was campaigning for some additional money, and I'm assuming that this is what he was campaigning for. I said, I haven't heard anything about that, and so I'm not sure where we're at. I can't bring it up on my file either, that it goes into.
You're looking at 2008.
No, there's 22 right there.
So I'm assuming if we want to, I guess Cameron, since you came prepared, why don't you just give us the quick walkthrough overview tonight? We'll take just a quick overview, that way we know what's in it, we can look at the, add it in more detail, follow up with a few folks, and then we'll have a more in-depth discussion and, public hearing next
time, yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay, so I will just quickly point out a few things then. So the first page, number 3, is the one actually that was added on there today. So this was distributed last week, but number 3 was added on there today. And what we have happening there, and Bart probably could speak a little better to it, but we basically the vendor that provides the equipment for us on our storage and our disaster recovery is just kind of switching gears and requiring subscription and providing that equipment as a service rather than we buy from them. So Bart, if you want to, does that kind of sum it up? Do you want to add a little more to that, or?
I know we're pressed for time, but that's accurate, but it's not complete. The vendor that does our backup and disaster recovery, so not storage per se, so this is the backup of all the county data. The appliance is housed down at the sheriff's office, and we leverage that countywide, so it's a countywide service here. That vendor, we had planned on kicking them down the road one more year, We buy 5 years of support, hoping that it doesn't end of life in that 5 years, and it rarely ever does. Well, that ends next month for the current appliance. It's reaching 5 years old. In negotiations with them, they came back with a renewal to take it out the road one more year of just short of $30,000, $29,000. So my hair stood up and I said, unacceptable, what can we do here? So effectively, they're also changing, like Cameron alluded to, from a buy an appliance, own that appliance through the life of that appliance, and then do a renewal, like we're facing right now, to a subscription-based service. So their service is backup and recovery and disaster on the same physical platform, but now you pay for it by the month, as opposed to buying an appliance and owning that for 5 years and trading it in, kicking it out a year and trading it in another one. So that puts me in a pickle of a $30,000 investment now just to kick it down the road a year, or the negotiations started out for their new appliance. I need a little bit better, I need a little bit bigger because everything's growing and technology is rolling. That price tag came in at $161,000. $30,000 to kick it down a road to pay that $161,000. Neither of them were appealing to me. So I've gone back and had them tighten down the screws and get their pencils out, and I've got them down to $115,000 from $161,000 to do it this year for several different reasons. One of the main reasons being they are in a hardware crisis just like the rest of the world. Chips and boards and things that they have to continue to support for people that aren't at the end of the term. Our equipment is a lot more valuable to them, so they will take it back and they'll give us a better credit right now to have that older chipset so they can supply other customers with the chips and boards and doodads they need. So I looked at this and said, I'm going to treat this holistically, and I'm going to save the county $70,000 as opposed to going next year and trying to renegotiate down to what I'll never get them down to, or act on it today and come to the council for $17,500. There's your bottom math. So I feel like I've saved the county a ton of money. I've moved the CIP plan up a year. I'll live with that punishment, but it's a good proposition for the county, and I've fully vetted it and I stand behind it. Any questions?
Okay.
Thank you. Testimonial.
Did you ask? Sorry.
It was just a slime remark. I just said it sounded like a testimonial to me. You did well.
Well, the order now.
All right, thanks, Bart. So all of the other items on here are what had previously been there. There was a correction to one of the accounts, and then there was also an allocation made on how one of the items was funded, but there was no new funding in the amendments that came, or in the updates that came today, aside from this one from Bart. So then generally going over the rest of the document, this followed the same format that we started last year. And so there are 30, let's see, I think 35 projects or 35 amendments here proposed from the various departments of the county. So that takes you pages 1 through 6. On page 7 is how all of these amendments affect the allocation between the general fund and the tax administration fund, with those departments to allocate between the two funds. And so on that page, that's the only transaction on that page, and you can see departments by percentage, how they're allocating over. But those 35, then 36 is this. Then as we move forward onto page 8, this begins where we reallocated funding for our annual payroll increase. So if you remember last fall, when we adopted the budget, we had talked about a compensation reserve account. And I said that we needed that because I don't know where all these raises are going to go. But we estimated the amount. I took that from what the compensation committee had recommended and then estimated into what funds those would go. But even that I really didn't know. These following entries in this section are taking what was in that compensation reserve and then reallocating it to the specific departments now that those increases have been provided. And so in total, there was approved $2,612,400 for these annual increases. The total amount being allocated out for increases, though, is under that amount by $64,000. But that's countywide. And what I found as we started making those allocations is that some funds I estimated high, and so we have unallocated funds in those categories. The general fund is one of those. But in some funds I estimated low, and so I'm using the complete allocation to that compensation reserve, and then I'm also asking for fund balance out of those accounts. And that was simply by estimate. So again, in total, the amount allocated out is less than the amount that was approved by $64,000. But in some of those funds, I'm asking for more than that, just because of that estimate. Does that make sense? Are there any questions on that one issue? No? Okay. So each transaction there, number 37, number 38, it just goes fund by fund and makes those allocations. So that's the next few pages. And then starting about midway on page 10, there's the next section, reappropriation of unspent purchase orders from 2021. This is something that we typically do in this first amendment. This lists each one of those out individually so that you can see what their purpose is and how much they're for. There are 45 of them in total, so this will go from number 43 to number 86, I think, or 87. 87. And that's really kind of what wraps up that detail section on page 15. Starting on page 16, this is just giving you a look at then how does this impact the budget. So starting with the general fund, but including all of the funds of the county, it will show what our original budget is or what's been adopted already. Then there's a column for the amendments, and so what all those transactions added up to by revenue source or by department. And then, therefore, the last column shows what is then the new budget. So, for example, on page 16, we can see a transfers from other funds. That's one of the last revenue lines. It had a budget of $11,000. The amendments for $25,000, and then the new budget amount would therefore be $36,000. In this case, there's only one transaction adding up to that 25, and that's a transfer from the Visitors Bureau Fund for the Fairgrounds Event Center for the sound system there. But in other cases, there would be many transactions that are adding up into the one line item. But just to show that view from, again, a revenue source level or a department level. And that goes through almost to the end of the report, except for the very last page of the report, then shows the budget in total. So in the general fund, we're going from an adopted budget of $51,387,800 to a budget of $55,384,600. I did put a little note, since that's quite a jump all by itself. Of course, the general fund is where most of the operations are, but the very biggest piece of what we're doing there is reappropriating funds for the animal impound facility. There was over 2.8 million that, almost 2.9 million that was appropriated last year but wasn't used or spent for that facility because the construction is really barely getting started and is ongoing into this year. So it's not really new money to the county per se, or using up one-time funds for an unforeseen need. It was just measuring where we got to at the end of the year and now reappropriating the rest into the current year. So those are the three pieces of that report. Like so, I can come back next time and we can be in more details, and that'll give you some more time to look at all of those transactions and be prepared with questions. If you have any in the meantime, I'm happy to answer those as well.
Is there, like I mentioned a little earlier, I got a call this week from one of our deputy prosecuting attorney that they were requesting an additional $50,000 in new money. Is that in this anywhere?
Yeah. I think, is that the very first amendment request that you're asking for? Defender. It's for public defender, though, rather than our prosecuting.
So what is that all about? He tried to explain to me, and I was having a hard time getting past the thing that...
He's here if you'd like to ask him.
Would you like to address that, Mike?
Sure. So I'm here.
Are you who called me?
I am the one that called
You're the one that knows my nephew?
I do.
You don't look much like him.
Is that a good or bad thing?
That's a good thing.
Okay.
I
I'll
don't
tell him
think
that next time I see
He
him.
didn't claim that he was your nephew.
I was trying to work that angle,
Well, he's
but
acted like he was a friend, and I was a little concerned, but. Anyway, you said that all of a sudden you're short of funds.
so what we're doing is,
Now, help me out. We just did budget 2 months ago. How in the world are you in 2 months already out of funds and you need more funds?
yeah, we're
So
not,
you're gonna have to convince me as to what's going on.
yeah, I think the basis of my request is adding an additional public defender contract. So right now, based on the court system being closed for the last 2 years of not having any trials, our caseloads are enormous and they're all backed up. We have more trials. We're going to do more trials this year than we've probably done in the last 10 years. And a lot of it has to do with sex offenses. Councilman Gunnell pointed me to an article from KSL, actually.
Find it?
I did find it. And it's an interesting stat here. It says, if you want to look at it and read the whole thing, it's interesting. It's Utah sexual assaults are poorly tracked and under prosecuted. Well, Utah County, for example, reported 171 sexual assault cases, and this is over a 5-year period. And they only prosecuted 75 of those, so that's 44%. Cache County, in the last 5 years, has reported 82 and prosecuted 100%. So to give you some perspective, Utah County's public defender office is probably 4 to 5 times the size of our office, of our staff. And we've done, looks like, over 7 more of those types of cases over the last 5 years. And so I guess, I mean, this stat shows that our county is prosecuting a lot of those cases. And those are the kind of cases that take up all the time. Those are the cases that we spend the most money on. The additional funds is, number one, is going to allow us to pay for one additional public defender. And that's not an employee from the county, that's a contract, okay? And the additional funds is also to pay for things for trial, like witness fees. We just recently flew a witness in from Alabama, and that cost us $1,500 to do. We have to get investigators for these types of cases. We have to get expert witnesses, which can range from $3,000 to $5,000 for an expert witness. So these are all the costs that are associated with these types of cases. Now, of the 50,000, 20,000 is what we actually need in my current budget to add the additional contract. The extra 30 is the cushion, because I'm not exactly sure what the extra costs of these cases are going to cost. It all depends on how the case goes and what cases are filed this year. So I'm trying to get ahead of this and anticipate the costs instead of running over the budget. Now, our department was just created in the fall, in October. And I'll take maybe some heat that I'm learning the budget process, and we should probably address this in December. But this need's been there for a while. I mean, the way I've looked at the public defender's office, there's always a stress level that public defenders have. It's a steady thing and prosecutors have it too. But over the last 2 years, the stress level is enormous. They're at their wits' end in dealing with this. For example, the courts, like I said, are closed. We do court from our office. The court's closed to protect the courts and the public, but a lot of our clients don't have the internet or a computer to appear in for court. So they come to our office to do that. Every Monday, there's 30, 40 people in our office. Yeah, or in our office, they're trying to deal with this. Yesterday, we had a person with mental illness having a breakdown in our office. You know, I mean, these are the kind of stress levels that we're dealing with. We need more people to help lighten the load and carry that load for the other defenders. So hopefully that answers your question.
This thing here, this is an increase that would go to the professional and technical portion of the budget, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Is there any other questions or anything like that?
Well, the other question that comes to mind is, we know the courts are all backed up because they didn't hold court. Has that had an effect as far as not being able to spend money because you haven't been able to do court cases? Or
I mean,
shouldn't that money be building up until your time comes when you can really go after it?
So as far as doing the cases, we still have court. It's just not in the courthouse. We're still doing having to work through these cases. These rape cases still get filed. We still hire an investigator, we still do that. What's been backed up is not being able to have the trial, which is, now we have so many trials set, people are sitting in jail for, I have a client that's been sitting in jail for 3 years waiting for their trial. And so we've already got investigators and paid for the investigators in those cases, but we're waiting to have the trial in that case, which we have to pay the investigator to come testify at a trial. We have to pay the expert witness to come testify at the trial. I think the cost from the county attorney's office is the same. I think their caseload is huge as well. And one thing to realize too, we have 3 district court judges, and this position is for the district court, not the juvenile court. The prosecutor's office have two prosecutors per judge. So they have 6 total prosecutors. The public defender's office has 3 per judge. So we're handling an enormous caseload. Over the past 2 years, the average public defender's handled around 460 cases.
You said 3 per judge. Did you mean 3 total, 1 per judge?
There's 1 per judge. So there's 1 public defender per judge, whereas each prosecutor, there's 2 prosecutors per judge. And they have specialized prosecutors that handle special victims cases like the sex cases, whereas the public defenders are doing those kind of cases along with all the other caseload. So this extra positions is we're going to have somebody to help with those special cases.
And you're thinking that this will be a positive and a good move, and
yeah,
next year when you call me, you're going to have a really good report, right?
I'm gonna tell you a fish story, and
hey, next year you won't even have to call me.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're not going to be on the thing. But anyway, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Glad to meet the guy behind the telephone call.
I do have 1 or 2 follow-up questions, but they're for Cameron. They're more technical
go
in
ahead.
nature.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to speak to that particular one if it's helpful as well in support of it.
Sure. No, I think, I don't think anybody has any questions on the need for the funding. My concern, and thank you, by the way, for the transparency in the budget and being forthcoming with what you're trying to do. My concern's on the budgeting standpoint. That additional funding is going into the professional and technical budget of the attorney's office, correct? Increasing that 120,000 that was in there by another 50, or is that in the public defender budget?
Yeah, there's a public defender budget separate
Okay.
from the attorney's office, and so this 50,000.
So we're wanting to pull that $50,000 out of an appropriated fund balance, but we could pull that $50,000, say, out of the attorney's office professional and technical budget and put it into the public defender's office professional and technical budget, correct?
That'd be a discussion between.
That'd be a
all-
discussion for the council?
That would be something you
Okay.
could do.
Good.
That's what I told Michael on the phone, you know. We spoke, I usually don't speak to him very much, but we spoke for quite a while.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Any other questions? Is it? Okay. I'll be back next time then.
See you next meeting, that's next week.
Okay.
Is it next week?
The 29th.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Thank you, Cameron, appreciate it. Moving on to 12A, the UAC Building Utah Conference coming up.
Just about did.
Gina, anybody else wants to go to that at all?
Guys, anyone else want to come? Are you going? Carol.
Gina, there's nothing like Carbon County.
I lived there for 2 years. It's a great place.
It is actually nice. I stopped there on a trip. Hit a deer there a couple weeks ago. Okay, UAC Management Conference down in Ogden. We've got Barbara, Gina, Carl, and Dave. Anybody else wants to go to that? Okay. Perfect.
I'll be driving down.
Smithfield Health Days Parade on the 14th. Is anybody, it's parade season, Gordon?
Yeah. I've been training.
You've been training.
Anybody want to go down for that right now?
One of those electric scooters.
Man, I saw those in Disney. They are powerful. You can move some folks. You get a cattle catcher on that.
I'll fall off and kill myself.
I'll be out of town, I've got a wedding.
Well, we'll let Barbara whip up some folks when she gets back. And with that, we'll go to council member reports. I'll start with you, Carl. Thanks for joining us again. We missed you last time.
The only thing I just wanted to mention quickly, I hear what Gordy's been saying, about Logan pulling out of things, and I've wondered, and that's why I did a significant amount of research in this. And on the garbage thing, 71% of their collections are outside of Logan City, but the collections outside of Logan City are only paying 43% of their cost of doing that. So Logan City has been really subsidizing the rest of the county in that process. And I found them to be very open. I know Rich Anderson very well, and not just on political side, but on personal things. And he's upfront and honest. It will really be a win-win situation because, like I say, I spoke with one of the owners of Atlas, and they're positive they can come in at lower rates than what Logan City is charging now. You know, when has it ever been that a government agency can provide services as efficiently as a private?
I think that will be never.
Yeah, probably never. You know, they'll still haul to the transfer station, and they'll still get hauled out to the landfill and things, but they just won't be collecting outside of Logan City itself, and that's going to be a better deal for everybody.
Can I ask a question on that, Carl, since you've looked at it? So did that number include who dumps at the landfill, who trucks it in themselves, number one? And number two, how do you account for the average $1 million a year that Logan City makes in profit that they've been in the enterprise fund that they then throw in their general fund if they're subsidizing the outside of the county? I don't understand that. That confuses me.
I don't know where the $1 million profit came from. That's not.
I've looked in their budget and seen that it varies.
But
it's
it
about,
shows
averages
that,
about $1 million.
But it's absorbed then in other services that have to be provided for. So, and the thing is that it's, you know, the collection company that picks up the garbage still will pay a fee to Logan City for a transfer station, and then for a tipping fee for dumping, and that will be still just, they'll pass that cost on to the people that they're providing the service for. And but again, like I say, this individual said they've looked at the numbers, and there are three companies bidding for that right now, bidding for the service, and they've talked about meeting with some of the mayors, and so again, I think it'll be a benefit to everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Anything?
Nope.
No? Gina?
Well, I just wanted to give an update also kind of on that note. Make the council aware that on, I believe, the last day of the session, SB 203 tire recycling amendments passed, sponsored by Joel Ferry and
Senator Sandel.
Sandel, yeah, thank you. Couldn't think of his name. Anyway, in there is a part about the Logan landfill, and it's starting July 1st, 2023, that any revenue that they collect will go to the state and then be given to the county. So those of you that are on that committee, I suggest you take a look at SB 203 and read through that and see how that affects your deliberations or whatnot. I wanted to make you aware of it.
Didn't Snyder also bring,
It's a Snyder amendment, but it's a bill by the other two.
I talked with Snyder the other day on that, so.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's all.
We talked tonight about subdivisions and water came up. I hope as a county, and I petitioned John legal from this because of the state water, but I think as a county, we've got to start looking at water situations going forward. I think there's going to be problems. And I think we need to be open-minded or see how we as a county can talk about water as we're talking about this growth and everything else. Because to me, it seems crazy to say, okay, you're approved to go through, but the ominous is on that. Actually, out in the county, sometimes it's not the developer, it's the individual who buys the lot that ends up suffering to drill a well, 2 wells, 3 wells, whatever else. And so I'm just hoping we can delve into that, see what's going on, get some ideas. I know it's been separated. I know all the time on the planning commission, we never got to say anything about water, but I think times are a-changing and we need to be able to look at that. So that's all I would say. And I look forward to that discussion in 2 weeks with the planning commission so we can give them some help as we talk about this general plan and also subdivisions and zoning and conditional use permits.
Wise counsel. Thank you. Gordon?
I attended the meeting with all the mayors, and it was quite an interesting meeting in the event that everybody sat there with absolutely no answers. You know, there was questions to be asked, no answers. Dave, do we hear anything about dumping fees? Has it gotten to that point? Have we asked Logan? Have we asked Cutler? Or are we not in a position to speak about it yet?
We're not really in a position to speak about it yet, but I have spoken with Logan City about what their current fees are. They told me, as Councilmember Ward just mentioned, that they're planning to charge a transfer fee and a tipping fee, and they told us they're planning to increase those. To what? We don't know yet, but something higher than what we have. I did preliminarily reach out to Box Elder County and ask them if we could have a discussion about it with them. They said they would be open to discussion and at least preliminarily said that they'd be open to us dumping there even, although I'm sure they want to do a lot more discussion and deliberation on their end. But no formal discussions on either side yet.
Did you bring up the point with Logan about a toll fee on the road out there or anything like that? We laugh, but it's something we can visit about.
And that's one of the things they mentioned is that I guess it had been brought up by some of the communities, Newton and Smithfield and other places that are closer to the landfill, just taking straight out to there. But apparently there was an agreement made with Clarkston to limit the amount of traffic that they would allow
out there
on that road. So that's limiting the ability to do that.
Well, it was quite interesting at that mayor's meeting. There was some mayors that were really, really upset. And as you talk with the public out there, I'm out in the county, and so we're the ones that's being affected. There's a lot of mad people out in the county too. And it's like I told the mayors, I says it was originally set up so that we could do away with the burning barrels behind everybody's house and do away with all the dumping in the ravines and that throughout the county, and it's pretty well dried all that stuff up. And now after 50 years, we're back to where, you know, we're almost in the decision making of those things happening again, and I'm hoping that we can work it out. But other than that, let's go Aggies, and we'll continue on.
Good.
Dave said he didn't have anything to say, so.
He's gonna smile. You good?
I'm shocked that Dr. Gunnell said the swear word CUP.
Bring it up quite often.
In public.
Yeah.
No, we need to, I think there's a couple of departments that do not have county council representation either. I think we ought to, let's look into those. And I think when Barbara gets, you know, as a chair or something, starts looking into it, let's just make sure, bring that up maybe on the 29th and make sure that each of those departments have representation.
Which departments are you thinking about?
I think one's the sheriff's office,
Sheriff's Office and Public
right?
Works,
Chad?
those two.
I think we've had a representative at the sheriff's office, haven't we?
Have, but I don't think there is one right now.
Did you run them off?
It might as well be me, because I'm probably headed there at some point anyway, so I might as well see what I'm getting myself into.
Years past, we've always had
No, it's representation, not inmate. But,
No
anyway, just
Outside voice, not
look,
inside
look
voice.
into that, and Barbara can, we just make sure that we're covered there.
I'll have to do the sheriff's
Have to do a
office.
couple. The other thing is, I'm still appalled at the process of the solid waste and how they just got up there and just, this is what we're doing. Never was brought to the SWAB, solid waste board at all. Not, I just thought that was really very, I don't know, it really made me mad that they did not go through like the proper channel saying, can we start looking at this and get to an agreement earlier to wherever, we didn't have to have a knee-jerk reaction on all of it, which is what it's caused. So, other than that, I'm gonna call the ice arena, see if what the price of their used Zamboni is. I got a 2-acre pond that I could sure use one on. So.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice.
In the
wouldn't
winter.
it? That'd be nice. You got a shed to store it in too, right?
Anyway, okay.
Okay, and I have nothing. So with that, we will adjourn, and let's go Aggies.